welcome everybody to Deck, the Drummers Education Connection podcast show. Really big show. I am Chip Ritter, and I'm joined with two of my best friends, Jeremy Steinkohler and Bart Robley. Kizom. We are doing an episode today called How to Get Back Up When You Get Knocked Down. And to start off this show, we're going to do our traditional good things, a segment we like to do, and talk about like what's going on in our life and update each other and, you know, break out the coffee and get down to business, chopping it up, solving the world's problems. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Jeremy Steinkohler. What's going on good for you, dude?
I had a couple of good gigs this past week. Reaffirmed my love for playing the drums and playing for live audiences, and just feeling grateful to be able to get to do what I love to do. Also going to be interviewed by Michael Scott on the Drummers Pathway podcast coming up.
Nice.
So next week,
so
yeah.
nice. So
nice. Shout out, Michael.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. And my son just had his wisdom teeth out, which by itself is not a good thing, but the fact that it went well and there were no problems and he's recovering just fine, that's a good thing.
Right on, man. Cool. How about you, Bart?
You know what? I'm kind of gonna echo what my friend Jeremy said. Had two great gigs this weekend. Very thankful for that. It's after 26 years, sometimes it can be easy to go, oh, not that song again. But every time I play the set, I love it. The crowds are very responsive. The crowds are plentiful, and I'm very incredibly thankful for that. And as you guys know, my book that came out this year, Drum Up Your Business, is doing well. And I talked about this a little bit last week. I had it was kind of some of the out from Drum Up Your Business. I kind of, it's not going to work. And I set it over here on the shelf. Well, I decided to make a new product with it because that all stuff kind of blended together. And the product is called You Are Your Best Commodity, which is a thing that I like to say often to my students. And it's really kind of on the same vein as Drum Up Your Business, where it is thought-provoking and it's business-oriented. It talks a little bit about playing, but it's to all musicians, and I put it on a new platform. It is a downloadable PDF, and it is on Gumroad, and you can download that. You can use that to kind of move yourself forward in your musical career. So that's going good, and just, you know, I have students, and I have a roof over my head, and I am just happy to be here on deck. What about you, Chip? What's going on?
That's up, man. You know what? There's almost too many good things going on. Sometimes I think God's like kicking it so hard. I'm like, dial it back. It's too shiny and bright. I'm feeling really good right now. And I got the two things one thing I wanted to share with you guys. Before that, I found in storage, one of two things for my good things is my Humsenberg case from, you can't see it because the green screen is playing Bad News Blues.
No, it shows.
Well, I toured the world with Bad News Blues Band and Long John Hunter in 1998 through 2001. We were actually played the House of Blues on 9/11 on 9/11 when that happened.
Wow.
We didn't want to play, and I mean that's a whole story. But the point is, I got that case and I remembered those times, and it like brought me down memory lane, and that was like a good thing. And then I wanted to share my screen with you and show you a snare drum that I got.
Nice.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, gorgeous. What's it made of?
It's made of aluminum, trick snare drum.
Wow.
All aluminum. I named her April after the founder of the Breast Cancer Can Stick It Foundation. So that's April, everybody. Say hi to April. She's a beauty. That's my good things.
And what do you have anything specific you want to say about the snare drum?
Well, that's a top prize in our Team Ritter raffle that we're doing to fundraise money for breastcancercanstickit.org. But I don't have any other details right because they haven't been publicly released.
Gotcha.
So I don't really want to let the cat out of the bag, but I can say that we are going to have the founder, April Samuels, live on deck September 23rd. So look out for that show.
Gotcha. So this is a teaser. This is a teaser.
This is a teaser to say, ooh, look, pretty snare drum.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty snare drum. That's my good thing. And Fred Fisher's in the house. Don't forget to check out the Drummergy podcast with Fred Fisher. Click on his name and go make friends with Fred.
it's pretty easy to make friends with Fred. I gotta say,
It is. He's so diplomatic. When we talk, I talked with him on the phone the other day, and I was like, "Raw," and he goes, "Well, you have a point there." You know what I mean? He's like, "I approve this message." Love you, Fred. Right on, man. So back to the show. Let's get going and kick it off. How to get back up when you get knocked down. Usually, when I get knocked down, I've got some things that I have some go-to things that we usually do in my life that I do, but sometimes things that I do stop to work. So I'm always interested in what everybody else's opinion is on what they do to get back up when they have a setback. You know what I mean? When you try to do something or reach a goal and you fail, how do you get back up after being discouraged or knocked down? So, what is that old saying that it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. The important thing is that you get back up. So we're going to talk about that. And I had something printed up to read, if you guys don't mind me reading it.
Go for it.
Getting back up after a setback starts with acknowledging the pain or disappointment without letting it define you. Then pausing to reflect on what went wrong and what you can learn. Reframe the experience as a chance to grow, not a failure, and reconnect with your deeper purpose to reignite motivation. Break your next steps into small, actionable tasks to build momentum, even if they're imperfect, and lean on trusted friends or mentors for perspective and support. By taking consistent action, embracing lessons, and cultivating resilience through habits like journaling or exercise, you can become stronger, knowing that every setback is just a setup for a comeback.
There's an important distinction, I think, between I failed and I'm a failure. And it's really easy when you fail to attach all that meaning to it and make it, I can't think of the word, like a judgment about your whole being.
Yeah.
I mean, God, we've heard this a million times, and especially the last 10 years, it's been like a popular culture thing. Oh, fail forward, fail upwards. It's all about, failing is an important part of the process, and all that's true. And I believe it wholeheartedly. But, when you fail, it hurts. It's hard. You can fail hard, and it can set you back. And, you gotta sit with that. I think denying it or pretending it didn't happen, that leads to deeper problems later.
Yeah.
But again, there's a difference between, this happened versus what does it mean about me? You said something there about defining yourself through failure. Yeah. And that's something you have to be careful about. And it is ultimately a choice that you make to do that. I tried out, I didn't get the audition. Oh God, I suck. This is the fifth one. I'm never going to get an audition.
Exactly.
Right. It's so easy. It's so easy to just slide down that slide. It's pre-lubricated, right? You just go right down the chute, and you're just in that self-pity place. That's hard to get back out of. We've all been there. But I think it's important to be like, okay, this happened, and it happened. And, that's a fact by itself. That doesn't have to mean it's going to happen next time.
Yeah, I went to the drum off in Seattle, 1997. I went to the semifinals of the Guitar Center drum off in Seattle, Washington. And I thought, because I met Dave Abruzes from Pearl Jam as a judge from the contest that got me to that final round, I thought by his encouragement of me doing stick tricks, I kind of got overconfident. And I tried to juggle when it wasn't fully cooked. And I basically got booed off the stage. I didn't get booed, but, it was like crickets, man. It was bad. And I remember walking out there, and Dave came up to me. He's like, dude, don't stop what you're doing, dude. Don't stop what you're doing. And he was so supportive. It really kind of helped get me back up in that moment of failure. But, failure hurts when you lose, and it means a lot to you. If your Eagles lose to the Cowboys, that hurts.
That's a deep cut, man, when your football team loses.
Yeah.
I had I won't go too deep into this, but I'll skim the surface of it. Chip and I have talked about this on the show. We did a whole episode by ourselves on the show, and that is that I quit drinking, and coming up on 7 years ago, and going through that process was so hard, and physically, emotionally, mentally, really, really, really painful, right? It's really super painful. And those things, I think, can carry forward into a music career or into your career as a drummer. And so as Jeremy said, I kind of had to sit back and look at myself. And I'm not talking about an audition gone wrong here. I'm talking about, a lot of stuff that went wrong. And I had to sit back and I had to look at myself and go, yeah, did that. And I had to acknowledge it. And even though at the time it was painful, I really like what you said, Jeremy, where once I recognized that I don't want to say it took the sting away, but it kind of took the fire out of the words that were coming at me inside my head, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense.
And I had to pick myself back up. Now, I had a great support team around me. I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of people around me that were helping me, who really cared about me. And I remember my saxophone player. He saw how bad I was hurting, and he's a great dude and a dear friend. And he would always say, he always has very kind words about everybody around him. He is always a champion for the people that he works with. And he says to me, he goes, Bart, that scene in Raging Bull, the fight's going on, and they're at the end of the fight and the fight's over, right? And Jake LaMotta walks up to Ray and he goes, Ray, hey Ray, you said you were going to knock me down. You didn't knock me down, Ray. You didn't knock me down. I was bloodied and beaten, but you didn't knock me down. And Ray gets all upset, and he goes, that's who you are. He goes, you haven't been knocked down. You're bloodied and you're beaten, but you weren't knocked down. And so I think that my point with telling that whole story and this whole big, almost bearing of my soul, if you will, on a drummer podcast, is that when you do go through hard times, and it can be quitting drinking, it can be you didn't get the audition, you didn't get the gig, it can be that you're juggling sticks.
You didn't get the audition is a hard time.
Oh, those sting, man. I've been there, right? They say that statistically, you go on 20 auditions, you get one gig. It's the way it works. Unless you're referred and you're a rock star.
Well, and for some, just to interrupt, if I may, for a quick sec, like for some professions, the ratio is way worse than that. Like for actors.
Oh yeah.
It's like 1 out of, I don't know what the number is, but I've heard stories like, you audition for 95, you get one.
Yeah, totally.
And so what were you saying, Bart?
No, no.
That's drinking the eggs, Rocky.
Yeah, I think you have to take you're going to have to take lumps in life no matter what you do. And I think that how you end up looking at yourself can sharpen you and make you a better person.
Yeah, your self-image is really important to have a sense of self-confidence and to really not let that outside take away your goals and dreams, I think.
Yeah.
Saying.
And I think when you look at let's say it is an audition and you go on an audition and you don't get the gig, and it really takes the wind out of your sails, because that does suck, man. That stings really bad when it happens. We've said this on the show before. It may have nothing to do with your playing. They might be looking for a person with purple hair that goes off to the left. That's what they're looking for, right? And you play great, but you didn't have purple hair that went off to the left. Mm-hmm. And here's one that I actually had this conversation with one of the guys that was a blue man. If you want to be a blue man, you can go to bluemangroup.com and you can audition for the Blue Man Group, and they have a few requirements. One of the requirements is that you shave your head. I'm in. The other requirement is that you play the drums. Hey, that's 2. I'm in, right? I can do this. Number 3, you got to be able to read music. I'm so in. I can be a blue man. Awesome. Number 4, you have to be under 6'2". I'm screwed. I'm
I
6'1".
auditioned for the Blues, man, in 2004,
Did you?
and was not. I think I was like not the body type or whatever, or something
Yeah.
about that. I remember being really mad and
Yeah.
discouraged. Like,
And,
they didn't
and
listen to me play, man. They didn't listen. They didn't listen. And
yeah,
it's like,
it's
dude,
it's easy to do that. And I mean, okay, I'm 6'5". I can't make myself shorter, so I didn't get the gig. I can't. I mean, why even audition?
Auditions are tough. Auditions are tough. It makes my mind boggle when I think about when I lived in LA playing and auditioning for bands and going through that tense, because it was so important to me. It was like everything in my world is riding on this one little moment. And one thing I've learned over, I don't know how many years I've been playing, guys, 40 years, something like that. But in 40 years of my career, one thing I've learned is this is not all there is in this moment. This doesn't define my career. Right. You know what I mean? And the results are not up to me. My job is to show up and do my best, and then, move on to the next thing, move on to the next target. And Bob Fisher did there was a drag race guy named Bob Fisher that owns Nitro Fish Drag Racing.
Yeah.
He went with John Force, and John Force is like the Elvis of drag racing. Well,
I love John Force.
Bob helped him get to where he's at, and he helped Oakley learn how to sell sunglasses at the drag strip. I later learned a lot from Bob, but I remember worrying about the trick snare drum in the photo shoot we did with the dragster. And my point is, I was stressed out and my hands were fumbling, changing the head so I could have a new head on my Aquarian, so I could show Aquarian my head. And Bob was like, calm down. This is not the only chance you're going to have for a photograph, bro. And he was really relaxing and calming. It was like he understood how much it meant to me to have my career be a success. So, but getting knocked down and getting back up, that takes resilience. You know what I mean? You have to have, you have to believe in what you're doing to get through those hard times, and to get back up. One of the things that I do on my computer, I have a folder called Shiny Things. And my brother always told me when I was bummed out, he's like, you need to find something shiny, man. I'm telling you, you need to find something shiny. I don't know what. So on when I hits me on an emotional, like a picture of my mother and me dancing, that just lifts me up or makes me feel calm and happy. And the pictures of my dog that I had, or pictures of my family. And I scroll through that folder of shiny things, and pretty soon I'm getting back up. That helps me get back up.
It's like surround yourself with things and with people that make you feel good about yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think it comes back into what the three of us talked about last week, and that is play the long game. You're going to have setbacks, but if you're in this for the long haul, you got to keep going and playing the long game.
For those of you who have been married twice, like I have, it's easy to feel like when the first one doesn't work out for whatever reason, like, oh, failed relationship. And then when the second one comes along and it's that much better, it's like, oh, now in retrospect, the failure of the first one made room for the second one. So
maybe I got room for the second one, Jeremy.
Not getting the gig. Yes, you didn't get the gig, and maybe you wanted the gig, but it opened you up to get the next gig that you got that you wouldn't have been available for had you gotten the first one. So everything happens for a reason. I kind of believe that. And,
I do too.
Sometimes, and you were talking about, Bart, that you cannot get an audition for all these different kind of reasons that have nothing to do with your playing. And then of course you can even not get an audition for reasons that do have to do with your playing, and that can be a good wake up call, like when you, I've had students who haven't gotten into these elite groups national things that they've auditioned for, and they have an option to check to get feedback about the audition. I tell them absolutely always check that box, because that's something you can use. That's something you can gain value from. And, sometimes the feedback's really good and spot on, and it's something we focus in on. And sometimes like, you know what? I don't really agree with that. You try it on for size and you let it go. But my point is anyways that, even in failing, there can be like a silver lining or something to take away that adds value and makes you better.
I really appreciate what Fred Fisher just posted. He said, I love that Jeremy said there's a distinction between failing and being a failure.
I liked that too.
I like that a lot. I was at the NAMM show the first time I went to the NAMM show, and I was juggling for trick drums at my Trueline drumsticks and all that stuff. And some guy in the crowd next to my manager, Jeff Wilson, got on the phone, and he's talking to somebody because they wanted to know what the crowd was about. And the guy goes, it's just some clown. And he walked away. And Jeff told me that guy told me that. And I got really butthurt about it. I was like, what? Why wouldn't they like me? You know what I mean? Like, really, and discouraged. And I just wanted to go home. I was like, whatever. And I walked outside, and Jeff was outside sitting next to me. He goes, listen, if you don't get back up and get in there now, you're not going to get through what you think this is hard in the entertainment business. You're not going to make it through what it's going to take to get there to really make it. So I want you to wipe your face off, go in the bathroom, put some water on your face and say, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it in the mirror. And let's get back to it. So I went back and I did that. And, the rest is history or whatever. But yeah, getting back up. Sometimes you just have to have a friend tell you the right thing.
One of the things that I've been doing lately to better myself, and also to kind of doing a lot of research on podcasts for Deck. I've been watching and listening to a lot of
Go
podcasts.
With Elmo podcast.
Yeah, and they're really long interviews. Like some of the really successful podcasts, as we know, like when I did Fred's podcast, it was like 2 hours, right? Goes by like that. Anyway, I'm watching this one with Dave Weckl, and I love Weckl. And he's talking about how when he came into different places, like when he moved back to the East Coast and he was in Boston and he was coming in and he was cutting all these heads, man. And everybody that he was like coming in and playing and knocking them out of their chair in school or what have you, they were thankful later because they're like, wow, you really showed me that I needed more than 30 minutes a day of practice. At the time I wasn't too happy about it, but I learned a lot from you coming in, and they're lifelong friends. And he mentions the drummers in there, and there's numerous ones. So I highly recommend checking out the Go With Elmo podcast and check out Dave Weckl if you're a Weckl fan. It's a fantastic episode. Let me throw this at you guys. Because I know for sure, I wish Rick was here. I know all three of us have been there. And if you say you haven't, you're lying. When we're at a gig and you're playing the gig, you're on stage, the band's cooking, everything is going great until that fateful moment when your brain just goes, and the band explodes. And everybody turns and looks at you because you just blew it. You made a mistake. And people are watching. What do?
You keep going on with the show and you act like it was meant to happen, or you repeat the mistake 3 times and they think you're a genius.
I knew that's what you were going to say. Jeremy, what about you?
I don't know. That's never happened to me.
Yeah. Liar. You're a liar.
Boy, when I was younger, those mistakes on the gig I would run through them for hours on end after the show and the next day. And I remember there was a time when I would count my quote mistakes, on the gig. Oh, okay, I got it down to 3. And a mistake was like, bass drum was a little out of the pocket, or, I rushed a fill or something. Not the band exploding, but I at a certain point I stopped thinking about music like that as like a zero-sum game and as like a competitive engagement. And I know that like if I'm seeing a show and there's a mistake on stage, like I don't care, right? as an audience member, like, and how they recover from it is more what matters. And so, you know, like in Bandworks, I've seen, you know, people who make a mistake and they make this horrible sour face, and it's like, oh, you're just telling the audience, you're just telegraphing that there was a mistake, and you're highlighting it, and you're showing them with your body reaction how to feel about it. You're like, oh, you should feel bad because I feel bad because this is a bad note. Whereas, you know, if you smile, ha ha ha, did you hear that bad note?
Yeah, my bad.
That's pretty funny. My God, I played an F sharp, but it was supposed to be a G. Right. I mean, then it's like, you know, audience hears it, they don't care, and they laugh too. Right. So it's hard to get to that place, but I think that's a big one is, you know, not caring.
Yeah.
You know,
Not getting to that place where you're being realistic about the situation.
Well, and not being so attached to the results of your playing, you know, like if it's always about perfection, you're always going to disappoint yourself.
Yeah. Remember deck day, and I was worried about the juggling, and you said, dude, you drop a stick, it's like Steph Curry. It's like, go again, dude. Nobody cares, dude.
The Steph Curry misses. He has actually shot air balls before. It happens, right?
Yeah.
But he's still the best shooter that ever lived. So yeah, I mean, even there's a great Alan Toussaint song called "Hang Tough," and one of the lines, "Hang Tough." It's great. It's a great tune. Great, one of the best train beat songs out there. And one of the lines in it is, "Even the masters miss sometimes, baby. So don't be so hard on yourself." And that's
I like that.
It's a great line. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, you know, not caring so much, realizing that you're still breathing. You know, that people are still enjoying the show, and you're still having a good time, and it can be an amazing show, and there could be mistakes in there, and it can still be one of the best shows you've ever played. You know?
Yeah.
Hey,
I posted that to Fred's comment. So Fred, go listen to that song, dude.
I think that
I want to. Can I just highlight a couple of comments we've had that are worth sharing? Fred says the body follows the mind. Be mentally and physically healthy. There's so much in the world to be mad about, and things that cause disagreement. Leave that garbage behind. Get up and help your friends up. Elevate those around you.
Thank you, Fred. That is perfect.
Fred.
And David Betts says, when I'm knocked down, I'm going to try my hardest to get up, because to not get up is to end the journey. And I believe the best is still to come. To not get up is to say that whatever knocked me down is bigger than my ability to get back up.
Yeah. Well said. That's
nice, David. Thanks for watching, David.
Yeah, you guys are the best. You guys are the best. I think that when I'm like you, Chairman, when I was younger, if I made a mistake, it was just devastating. And yeah, I've never, like, the band's never blown up, you know, like never stopped a song or anything like that. But, you know, you make a mistake and it used to just cut my soul. You know, I'm like, oh my God, because I felt like I was letting the band down. You know, I mean, of course I felt stupid that I made a mistake, but I felt like I was letting the band down. And so I'd go through this Rolodex of excuses that as soon as the show was over, I'd explain my mistake to the band and they would understand. And I kind of started realizing that, like you, that none of that matters. And when I start making those thoughts and my brain is going, I'm no longer in the game. I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. I'm not thinking about the songs, the shows, nothing. I'm just panicking. And I'm giving more fuel to that mistake, so the likelihood of making another one is greater. Look, I've played this song a million times. I made a mistake. I know the song. I did it last night. I'm going to do it tomorrow night, and it won't be there. It was just a mistake. So yeah, letting it go. Just I think, you know, it's over. It's, you know, don't add fuel to it by acknowledging it more than what it was. Go ahead.
Evil Knievel. You're never a failure until you fail to get up.
Coleman Hawkins, great tenor saxophonist, said, if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah. Our my guitar player David says that all the time. You know,
I always tell my students, the younger students that I have, that's good. You messed up. That's great. Well, we're failing forward. You know, we're failing forward. Most of our practice is going to be failure. And if we're really practicing something that's beyond our ability, we're trying to chew on that whole thing. The thing I think is interesting, I'm reading a book called Atomic Habits, and it discusses the fact that it's been proven that the talent and the ability to develop skill in humans is most effective. You get in the flow state if you have a little bit of a challenge going on. Like if 10 is impossible and 1 is way too easy, you should be practicing around a 6 or a 7.
Yeah.
Where it's attainable, yet it's not easy. It shouldn't be easy,
So we talk about that in context of teaching BandWorks, which is the rock band workshops that I started. The teacher's job is to find parts for each musician that are challenging, but that they can succeed that they can see that they can succeed at with work.
Realistic goals. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's too easy, they're going to be bored. And if it's too difficult, they're going to shut down because they can't do it. And so you've got to sort of like, if you can't play that part, you've got to simplify the part to give it to something that they can do and have some success with, and then work on. And I think that's the key, right? Which really comes back to the process over product, right? Like, and that's a good thing to keep in mind when you fail. It usually has to do with, a goal you set that you didn't achieve or whatever. But if you come back to focusing on the process, more things come.
Yeah. I'd like to circle back on something Bart said real quick, if you don't mind. The thing you said about somebody telling you something that you looked up to that person and they told you that comment and it brought you down or at that moment, or, if you've had a moment where somebody like your drum teacher said something and it hurt your feelings, you're like, wait a minute, I thought that was kind of on the money. You know what I mean? I went through that experience with Fred Hayes, and I'll never forget how upset I was, yet how true what he told me was. I looked at him on the first lesson I got with Fred Hayes. He's an amazing, amazing brush artist. You guys would love this guy. But I sat down with him after seeing his show, seeing his band perform with the 17-piece big band, and his toms were just boom, boom, boom. Just, they sounded amazing. And so I was like 13 years old, and I was like, sat down, and he's like, so what would you like to work on? What do you want to do on the drums, Chip? And I said, dude, I want to tune my toms like you tune your toms. I want to, because I had already played for him, and he assessed my skill level. And I said, I want to learn how to tune my toms like you because they sound so great. And he looked at me seriously, and he's like, don't you think you should learn to play the snare drum first? And it crushed my ego at that time, because I was like, this guy says I can't play the snare? I can't believe that. It took me a couple weeks to kind of get to where I started seeing through the snare work how what you do on the snare affects everything you do, and how important the snare drum is to the drum set. So yeah, man, it's like a learning lesson though. I can't let that stop me, and I didn't let it stop me because I wanted to play so bad. I was willing to pay. Okay, all right, you want to? Part of me was like, I'll show you the snare drum, and I was driven.
Well, you don't. Under the best of circumstances, right? You don't go to a teacher because you already know everything.
Exactly. You're there for a reason, right?
Right. You're there for a reason, which is that they know something that you don't, and you want to know what they know.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got to go in there with an open mind.
You want to get what they have.
What's that?
You want to get what they have. You want what they have.
Right,
yeah.
Right. On some level. Yeah. So, you've got to be open to, you got to go in there with an open mind and get rid of, sometimes it even goes against what you think you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took a lesson.
Sometimes I'm reading studying a book with my friend and mentor sponsor guy, and we're reading the book, and he'll say, so what does that word mean? And I'll tell him what I think the word means. He goes, look it up. And I'm like, I'm 55 years old. I know what that word means. Guess what? Didn't really know what it meant. Never really learned the definition. You'd be surprised.
a lot of times when you're reading something, like we've all been there where you're reading a book, and then all of a sudden you're thinking about cheesecake and you're not, why am I not in the book anymore? And it's because there was one word in a sentence somewhere along the line you didn't understand. So your brain just went for a second and, you're not in the book anymore. So yeah.
That's why it's good to reread books sometimes.
Yeah. I reread books all the time. I remember,
I rewatch Star Trek all the time.
Me too, man. I was in a Star Trek band. Anyway, I digress. I took a lesson with Bissonette. I took 3 lessons with Bissonette, and the first lesson I took with him. No. I take that back. It was the 3rd lesson that I took with him. It was the last one. I came home and man, my tail was between my legs. He just, oh God, he just went for it. And I was run over. And I was teaching at this music school at the time. And a buddy of mine who's taught bass there, he said to me, he could tell I was a little down in the dumps. He goes, "What's wrong?" And I told him, I go, "Man, I took a lesson with Bissonette yesterday and I just played terrible." And he goes, "Well, what were you working on?" And I go, "We were working on some Latin stuff." And he goes, "Is it new to you?" And I'm, "Well, yeah, I never played the stuff he was showing me before." He goes, "Oh, okay." He goes, how long did it take you to get to his house?" I was like, "Oh, dude, he lives up in Westlake Village, I mean, and it was a Friday night. Going through LA on a Friday, come on, it was like 3 hours to get there." And he goes, how much you pay for the lesson?" I go, "It was $150. And he goes, "And then you had to drive home for another 3 hours?" I go, "Well, there wasn't much traffic, but it was, still hour and a half, to get home." Yeah. Well, what if you would have just gone up there and gone through all of that and played great? And you would have played everything that he showed you. You would have wasted all that time and all that money to go jam with somebody. You took a lesson. It was supposed to be hard. It was supposed to beat you up. And this is, I'm playing, I'm teaching, I'm doing it, right? And that part of my brain still didn't pick that up. It was just like, oh yeah. So I think what I thought at the time was a failure where I felt like I got knocked down really wasn't, because what I did is then I turned and worked on it. I was like, oh yeah, duh. That's
It was
what
a
was
learning-
supposed to happen.
It was a learning experience.
Right. And what do they say? Success is found under a pile of mistakes. So that wasn't even a mistake. I think I was mistaken in the way I was thinking. I was thinking that I was supposed to go and I was supposed to go play with Greg Bissonette and have a great hang, which it was a great hang, but I was still there to learn. Like you said, Jeremy, I mean, just a second ago, when you take a lesson, you're there to learn. And so, yeah, sometimes we have to think things through, think it through a little bit more.
I don't care who you are. Sorry, Chip, you go ahead. You had your hand in.
I was just wanted to point out the thing that Fred Fisher said: so much in the world to be mad about, things that cause disagreement. Leave that garbage behind. Get up, help your friends up. Garbage. Identifying garbage. Garbage in, garbage out. You know what I mean? You get what you put in. And so I don't know, man. I was just thinking about, like, that's how you get up. And it reminded me of a story that I wanted to share about this psychiatrist that sees this kid and he's super optimistic and he's super happy all the time. And he's a young kid, a little 5-year-old or whatever. He's too happy. And his parents are like, we're worried about his mental health because he's always happy no matter what happens. And the psychiatrist says, okay, well, let's figure it out. And they put him in a room with a pile of horse shit. And he's like looking through the horse shit excited. And they're like, what are you doing? He's like, with this much horse shit, there's got to be a pony around here somewhere. So that's all I was thinking about. Sorry, Jeremy.
That's okay. I forget what I was going to say anyways.
How to get back up when you get knocked down.
I was talking about Bissonette and the lesson with him, if that reminds you at all. I think
Maybe that
just that, I don't care who you are, like that you can put something in front of any drummer that and ask them to play it that's going to kick their butt. Yeah. And I mean, we all have blind spots and things we're not as good at, and ways of putting together patterns and grooves that's like, oh, that's new to me, right?
Yeah.
So of course I'm not going to be good at it because that's not a skill set that I have, so
Yeah.
expecting yourself to be, just because you're a professional or wherever you're at, or you play a band, blah blah blah, doesn't mean you can do everything under the sun. And there's always going to be people who can do things differently and better, and you want to learn. It takes a little bit of humility.
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of go back to something that Fred said too a second ago in the comments when he talked about, uh, you know, uh, your body follows your mind, and this is something that I talked about this morning. I in a live broadcast that I did on Facebook.
The one
I
where
did.
you were at the gym.
Yeah. Well, it was two parts. It was on the way to the gym and then in the gym,
Oh,
so
you did too.
my Wi-Fi croaked out on me. So anyway, I do think that that it's a mind, body, soul thing. I really do. I think that, it's so easy to knock ourselves down because we have this thing that we want to do, no matter what it is. I want to be a better teacher. I want to be a better
Teacher,
podcast host. I want to be
drummer,
a better drummer. I want to be a better
golfer.
band leader, a better husband, whatever. I want to be this better person, right? And so I'm so focused on that. I'm so focused on being better that's all I focus on, and I don't kind of step away from it for a minute. And so I think that, hey, look, I have a daily aspirations book over here. My Bible's right there. Sitting down and soaking some of that stuff in, reading, bringing it into you. It nurtures your mind and your soul and your spirituality. If that's what's important to me, right? Going to the gym, lifting some weights, doing some yoga, going for a swim, something physical. And then another thing that I've discovered, and I did talk about this in the gym today, on my live thing. I had a guy one time tell me, actually, it wasn't a guy, it was Roy Burns told me this one time. He goes, you got to find a hobby. And at first I was like, well, Roy, you're Roy Burns. Why would you say that? I'm a drummer. I mean, but then all of a sudden I realized, well, that's not my hobby. That's who I am, and that's what I do. And so a number of years ago, I got into cooking, and that's kind of my hobby because I really enjoy cooking. I really enjoy making nutritious food that is good for my body. It's better for my mind than a bunch of saturated fats and processed food. And it's incredibly creative. It's like super creative. I don't know if you guys like cooking or have ever tried it, but when you get done making a meal, and you give it to somebody, you serve it to somebody, I get more enjoyment out of having somebody enjoy the meal than I do out of making the meal, right?
Oh yeah,
And
my
it's
grandma was just like that. She wouldn't even finish dinner. She would be in and out of the kitchen grabbing so and so the salt, or going to get so and so this, so and so that. We'd all be watching the TV, and my grandmother would be sitting there eating her food because she spent the whole dinner serving.
Yeah. And I think that I don't know. So my point with that whole thing is, I do think that it's, when you're feeling down, when you're feeling beat up on, you feel like you had a failure. Again, it's a mind, body, soul thing. I think that to take a step back, maybe feed yourself a different way, whether it be through reading, whether it be through literature, maybe read some poetry. Step away from the phone and the video games. Jeremy, you're really big at going out into nature and going hiking and doing that stuff. That feeds you. It replenishes you. That stuff's important.
Agree.
I really
Absolutely. Do. Mind, body, and soul, the triad.
And again, I don't want to just hog the conversation here when I say this, but we've all been there, and I'm on the road a lot with the band. I mean, this year we literally have been coast to coast this year. We have been all over the place, and I love doing what I do. But I tell you what, man, it does a number on you. It really does. I mean, being away from home.
I know.
Travel, load in, set up, sound check, performance, tear down, pack up, back into the trailer, travel back to the Airbnb or hotel, on to the next flight. The food backstage is is a bowl of peanuts. You're moving constantly. Once you get there and you go as fast as you can to get set up, now sit around and wait for 2 hours for sound check. Hurry up and wait. All these things happen, right? So you have to kind of keep your body in shape. I mean, you really do, because man, it will beat you up. I go to great lengths to work on my hand technique. I try not to grip the sticks really tight. I work really hard on keeping my hands relaxed. It's something that's important to me. And still, man, at the end of a long run, my forearms, I'm sore. I'm tired. So working out, it's a big thing. It's very important.
Drumming is very physical. It's good for you too. You know, that reminds me of a story. Sorry?
Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
They had a musicians camp out, a musicians concert, and Eric Clapton spoke, and he played the guitar, and you could feel the barometer change when his hands touched the guitar. It was amazing. And at that musicians thing, I met a man who was a bus boy for Gene Krupa, and when he was like the bus kid that would set stuff up and work with his father, who played trumpet in Gene Krupa's band. And I was like, you knew Gene Krupa? Oh my God, what did he eat? What did he, because I freaked out. I love Gene Krupa. And he said, I met Gene Krupa and all this stuff. And he told me the whole story. The point of what I'm trying to say is he came back into town and told Gene Krupa that he had a gig. And Gene Krupa loved him like his own son. And he said he had this gig and he's going to go out and tour. And Gene Krupa pushed him up against the wall. And he looked at him and he said, Tommy, if you don't love this, get out now. Get out now. If you don't love what you're doing, it was pretty powerful. I love all kinds of stories about Gene Krupa.
Yeah, Krupa was awesome. Jeremy, what do you think it is that is being what were you a major in?
Literature.
Literature. Okay, so you're a literature major in college. Why do you think that reading and feeding your brain is so important? Maybe that's like the dumbest, most broad brush question ever. But since you're a major in that, since you studied that deep, why is it so important?
I mean, it is a pretty broad question, but it informs your worldview. It helps you understand the human condition and what we're here for. It helps you find meaning in life and metaphor and relationships with other people. That's the sort of broadest, shortest answer I could imagine. But it's also an escape into worlds that you know nothing about, and not escape, maybe not even the right word, but you get to explore. Imagine, especially before the internet, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine before computers, and you read a book about, Treasure Island, Robinson Crusoe, and it was like a fantasy, it transported you to a whole other world that you knew nothing about and were excited by, and it was something different. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I asked the question to be thought-provoking to you because if you studied literature that deep, and look right here. I read this, but this is a book that I've read through many times. And sometimes it's like anything, I don't want to read the whole book. There's this one sentence that he said, and I have them highlighted. I love this book.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. And the way you write is so thought-provoking and so well done that I think it's one of those things where, for me, again, it comes back to the mind, body, and soul thing. It really nurtures you. Sometimes one little sentence or one little phrase, one little thought-provoking thing from somebody that you care about, especially when you know the author, somebody you care about, somebody you respect, somebody you really think highly of them. It's I don't know, it feeds me, right? It's like I like poetry, right? So you read a poem and it just makes you rethink things. So I don't know. I just, because you were a major in it, I wanted to ask.
I don't know that
Dreamy's
Go ahead.
book's got a setbacks and recoveries on page 160, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about that there. I mean, oh boy, I'm sure there's all these quotes that I can't think of now, like Walt Whitman, who talked, Leaves of Grass. He talked about sort of finding, or the same thing with Pat Metheny talking about Charlie Hayden, the great bass player, and he said he could play infinity in a note. And Walt Whitman Leaves the Grass, sort of like transcendental, like beauty and everything in the smallest thing. And I think there's something there about appreciating the large in the minute, and reading helps you do that, I guess. I don't know if this is making sense.
No, it does. And I didn't mean to put you on the on the spot. I was just kind of like, what is it about reading that frees you? Because I know what it does for me, and it's almost impossible to put into words.
Yeah. I don't know. Expands your mind.
Bart, let me ask you this. Let's say you woke up and you fully didn't want to get out of bed, and it was just one of those days where you're just like, I just want to stay here, or you felt down or whatever. What's your go-to move to get back up and feel better?
I literally, there's times we all have those days, and I literally just, I count backwards from 3, 3, 2, 1, and by the time I hit 1, my feet are on the floor. I get up, I do a stretch, and when I really feel like doing nothing, I go to the gym. 100% of the time. If I don't go to the, if there's like, I'm on the road and there's not a gym available, I go outside, I get some fresh air, I do some push-ups, I do some jumping jacks, I find a place where it's not going to tear my elbows to shreds, and I do 3 minutes of plank pose. I do something to get my blood going. I then come back and I will, at the same time, I also pray. Bissonette talked about that on our show here. I'm a believer in prayer. I say a lot of prayer. I pray a lot. Then when I get back into a place where there's a practice pad, I just hit the practice pad. When I'm on the road, I have a book or two with me. Maybe I've printed out a drum solo out of the Wilcoxon book, which Jeremy turned me on to, or the Nard book, and I play through one of those, and by then I usually feel better. That's my go-to.
Right on. How about you, Jeremy? What do you do to get back up?
Different things. I'll go work out, ride my bike, play golf, practice. Playing drums helps me. Just sitting down in between lessons, and playing for a half hour. I usually something physical, because I'll tend to sort of spiral with the thoughts. If I'm in a bad place mentally. It's almost always got to be physical for me.
Yeah. I was just going to say, one of the things my brother always tells me is you can't think your way into right action. You've got to act your way into right thinking.
Well, a question. Jeremy, does golf really relax you?
That's a whole episode we're going to do on that. I was going to say earlier, well, when things are going bad, I go out and play golf, and when things are going good, I go out and play golf. Man,
everybody I know that plays golf,
it really doesn't. It's not relaxing. It's not relaxing at all. It's
especially when you're shanking it.
But I love it. It's like I can't get enough of it. Yeah.
I've purposely never pursued golf because I know I would get addicted to it and spend all my money.
Yeah. It's relaxing is not the right word. It's relaxing to be out in nature and just birds and coyotes and foxes and all that stuff. It's cool. And if you're hanging out with friends, that's all great. But when I'm playing, I'm wanting to do well, just like when I'm playing drums. It's just that my floor as a drummer is very high. My floor as a golfer is not that high. My ceiling is high. When I put it together, I can play really, really, really well. But
I remember my friend John tell me he spent $140 on a golf lesson, and he's like out there golfing, and he's just like got so mad. He's like, man, and the golf teacher's like, dude, you know what? You're really only off by just a tiny bit.
well, yeah,
You're
it's
really
true.
only off, and if you just do this,
yeah.
you know, and he did it, and then boom, he did it right. You know, it was
Sometimes
like
it works like that.
sometimes it's just a tiny little adjustment to be in the winning zone.
It's true. It's true. But it's a very fragile, edge there.
Yeah.
Lee and
be
I
like-
have a
yeah.
timeshare down in Palm Desert, and it's this beautiful golf course. I mean, it's gorgeous. And I know nothing about golf. What I know about golf would fit into a thimble. But I'm watching these guys out there play, and I'm like, okay, I own this timeshare. I'm here a couple times a year. I'm going to learn to golf.
Yeah.
So I went into Dick's Sporting Goods, and I walked up to where they sell golf clubs, and I looked at one driver, and I grabbed the price tag, and I said, "Holy beep!"
Yeah. Well, but don't that wouldn't be the thing to do, is to go out and buy a new driver, right? You'd buy a used set of clubs, and you
Yeah.
can get yourself going for a fraction of that cost.
I would like to play. I would like to play, but I need less frustration. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it someday.
I have my buddy Fernando plays golf all the time. He's always telling me about how up and down it is, but how, like Jeremy, he loves it. He loves the swing.
Yeah, we could do a whole episode on golf. I've got a lot to say.
Right on.
Jeremy's
Well,
going
we're
to go
coming
play
up
golf.
close to the end of the episode. Is there any closing thoughts you guys might have to help our friends get back up?
I want to acknowledge what Fred Fisher said. Jeremy, if you would share that. It was Fred Fisher led at 11:50. People who are chronically mad, nothing goes right, or depressed frequently tend to be physically sick. Yes, dude. I completely agree with that. You've got to be, if you're constantly, this person is a jerk and that person's a jerk and this isn't right and that isn't right and this is wrong, it wears on you physically and mentally. Don't be that person.
Absolutely. Jeremy, closing remarks?
No closing remarks.
All right,
Watch the
well,
show.
listen.
Lots of good stuff here today.
It was really good. Thank you guys so much. It's an honor and a privilege to work with you on the Drummers Education Connection. And we hope you'll tune in next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. Thank you for watching.
Have a good week, everybody.